So I'm going to assume that you have a model that you are already prepared to apply the shader to. You've already done all the fixes you need to do. You have vertex colors, all that whole shebang. You just need the actual shader. Okay. First thing you need to do before anything else, go to render properties, color management, and view transform. From whatever it is, change it to standard. So I'm still learning how to actually do shaders in Blender. So bear with me, some things might be a little bit complicated, I might be a little bit confused, but I'll try to work through it as best as I can. So we're gonna go to File, Append, I currently have this saved to my desktop, System for Blender Shader, and we're gonna go to Object, not Material, we're gonna go to Object because there's some stuff we need. We need the Sun, Angle, Control, we're gonna do Base Fighters, the Decal Shader, and the outline shader. This is just an example Goku, and we're not actually going to grab that. Hit append, and we have some stuff loading around us. This is just to help us work on stuff. Change the viewport shading over to whatever the heck that is. We have our model to work with. You can see this actually already has some textures on it. That's because this is preloaded with some stuff that I've got and saved it with it. Base, we're going to, actually, we first need to actually get the material onto it. And hit the plus, we're going to hit new, and go to FighterZ base, copy the material, and paste the material. Okay, for the time being, I am actually going to separate the damage. Selection, all this damage, decal, separate this, cal. Just so it's easier for me to hide. You know what, let's hide everything else. Sorry. There we go. Okay. So you notice it's really dark right now. That's because there's some settings I need to fix. Open up the shader editor, and normally, if this is a different character, not one of the Goku Super that's preloaded, you would come into here, and this is where you apply the textures. Don't delete these. Just hit the X, and then go find your texture when it opens it up. Do that for each of these. For Guilty Gear, obviously there is no detail, and you would actually hit this X here, which I'll go over later. Future me, I forgot to mention inside the UV map here. You want to make sure that this is set to whatever the second one is here for the Dragon Ball FighterZ models. That's for the detail maps on like the fingers and on the body and whatnot. You gotta make sure you set that properly. I'll go over later. Get to that. But here we have some main settings here, as well as over here on the side. So I'm actually going to shrink this down a bit so it can work. If it's really dark like this, it's probably vertex layer 2 threshold. Yeah, it is. And we'll turn this up just so we can work. We'll fine tune it a bit. Specular size shift, we can see that there's that there, and we'll actually bring the intensity up a little bit. Okay. And this is pretty good for most people, but it actually has some settings we need to fix still. The Fresnel threshold, you can see there's no Fresnel on it. That's because the threshold is set to the maximum right now. For Dragon Ball FighterZ characters, I find 0.22 is actually the proper amount. You can see there it is on the body and whatnot. So most people would be really happy with this, but if you want to fine tune some of the details to get it just right, I have some controls here that should help you out with it. The biggest one is the shadow layer pushes. This controls how far along the body in the light direction the shadows are. Shadow layer 1 is the primary shadow. Shadow layer 2 is the dark one, and you notice the Fresnel only shows up in the darkness. So you can fine tune those, and that's for each of these different things. So layer 1 is light layer 1, vertex layer 2 is light layer 2, and that controls the shadings. You see on Goku, he doesn't have anything here, so I actually need to bump up the threshold here. I think that's too high. Pretty sure the default on these is 1. Not that one. Sorry. It's a little bit trickier than it is working with my shader in Unity. Oh, I'm working on the wrong thing, actually. There we are. Sorry. It's a little bit trickier than it is for me in Unity. See, perfect. Okay, so there's a pretty good looking Goku. So if you want, you can. This would be completely fine to work with, and if you want to control the light direction, we actually need to. Let me head that away quick. We have the sun control, the sun, and I have this little thing to help visualize the light direction. I have this currently grounded, so it's not able to move anywhere if I try to move it around, but it can rotate. If you want to be able to move it around to help you, if it's in the way or something, you can go to the constraints and then you can just turn this off and you can move it around. But I like keeping it on because it helps visualize it. How this works is that it points at this and then it draws a line and that's your light direction. If for some reason you ever want to decide something else with your light, or if it ever breaks, I will show you how to fix that actually. We're going to click on the shader master, hit tab, and we'll go into the actual shader. We're going to go to this default dot one right here. We're going to go into that again with tab. And we have these, if I zoom out so you can see it, you have these purple pinkish things right here. And these are the drivers that control where or what is actually being followed. If it ever breaks, you'll probably have to go into here, and this is the one thing that's usually broken. So right click the pink, hit edit driver, and if you want to, sorry, the object is whatever you want it, this quote unquote sun to be. That's the point at which the light direction is coming from. So you would change the direction here, and if, here I'll show you for example, if it's red like this and you hit sun, sometimes this will still be red or say it won't actually update. All you have to do is hit type, change type, click on it, and then click average value again, and it will update. Just to showcase, I will actually create a new empty. And we'll move this around quick over there so that we'll quickly switch on and make that the sun. Edit driver, and we'll change the sun instead be that empty. And it didn't error at this time, but sometimes it might. You need to make sure you do this for each one. And now this thing is our sun. Next up is the decals. So we're gonna unhide our decals to work with. Go back to the materials tab, scroll up and go decal, and we're gonna hit plus. Actually, because I know there's only decals, we'll delete those existing. Put on decal damage, copy, and then paste it onto the original one. Then we'll delete that. Now you see currently it just has the wrong textures on it because we need to go into the shader editor and fix that. Same thing as before, we will just hit the X and we will go and find a texture. I have the textures for Goku saved here, decal, hit open. And we have Goku's textures for his decals. Same thing applies with the damage. We will go delete those two. Make a new one, copy damage decal, material, and paste material. And now all the characters use the same damage texture, or nearly the same. You can go through and find your different ones. Whatever the one that comes with your character is, you can go find that one. I'm not gonna. They're trying to find it right now, but you get the idea. And that's how you use the decals. For now, I'm just gonna hide that. So outlines are actually the trickiest, or a very tricky part. We actually need to do some mesh modifying. I'm going to duplicate just the body. If you have everything still connected, you're going to want to go into edit mode, unselect everything, click on your base, select, you'll hit key and separate by selection. You want a mesh that is only the base texture, or the base material. So I will quickly rename this, or we'll duplicate it, and I will rename this to outline. It helps organize it. We will hide the original, and now we have just this. We're going to create a new material, copy, do the same thing, copy material, Actually, in this case, we actually need another one, because I don't want to be using the original one. And new Goku outline. Base material property. That one. And we want to select absolutely everything and assign that material. And then delete all the other ones. Now it's still black, so we actually need to do some fixes right now. In the material editor, you're going to go, or in the shader editor, you need to make sure you open it up, go to your base, open it, and make sure you find the same texture that you're using for your character. You can see it's a dark version of that texture. Now we're going to put that back down. We're going to drag this up. Oh, I seem to have made that glitch. That's fine. It's fine. Break that down. Okay. Go into edit mode, and we're going to go to geometry data. Clear. Make sure you select everything. Clear split lines. Now you can see it looks a little bit wrong. If I go into this, everything looks wrong. Go into edit mode, select everything, and we're going to do merge by distance. The default value 0.0001 is usually the best. Don't go any higher than that. Then you're going to go back in object mode, and you see it looks like trash here. That's completely fine. It's entirely intentional for what we're doing. We're going to go to modifiers. I don't have any armatures, so actually we're going to ditch that for now. We're going to go to solidify, change offset to 0. I like thickness as 0.005 is usually pretty good, and then click on normals and hit flip. Can't see anything in this renderer, but we'll go back to here, and then we will re-enable the base Goku. And you see now we have some outlines, and it also doesn't have the broken split ends. There's still some glitches because it's not actually how you're supposed to do it. I don't know how to do it inside of Blender, but I do know how to do it inside of Unity. But you can just fiddle with the thickness and get different variables, and this looks good. It is passive. I prefer in Unity where I actually can control it a little bit better, but this is completely okay. And now for Guilty Gear, which is very similar, we're just going to go append into the same stuff. We're going to do base Guilty Gear, sun, outline, and decal. And we have some stuff to work. Change that back. Okay. We're doing the same thing. So just to help me organize. We're going to body. To help me organize, I'm going to go into edit mode and separate materials, just so it's easy to work with. Body decal. Body damage. And body. Okay, just so I can organize. There we go. Okay. Hide, body, base. Duplicate, add in Guilty Gear base. Copy. Paste. See, it looks pretty good already. That's alright. The soul actually looks pretty good right off the top. Same thing, you need to, if you change your textures, shader editor, modify the settings. For Guilty Gear models specifically, we need to go into here and make sure that this is removed and set as nothing. So general, the same set of things. We got some settings to mess with. You can fiddle around, push things around. Guilty Gear models actually don't have a secondary shadow layer, so I recommend setting this to -1 at all times. The vertex also is usually set to a solid 1. You move that around, you can see it kind of breaks things. It's all fine-tuning for the specific characters, but most people are able to figure it out if you just fiddle with it a little. Specular size, intensity, we bring brighten it up, shrink down this Fresnel size, full spread. They also have no Fresnel most of the time, except for in specific instances. So the Fresnel threshold You can set that on and off with like 0.2. If you want, if you notice that there's stuff inside the body, we actually can fix that. You go into here, go in there, and then this, you can manually set it here to remove it. So that's how you do it there for the Guilty Gear models. And after you're done everything, you could probably make something cool and start making your own animations and renders and whatnot. Yay! Guilty Gear.